So what if I told you that the single biggest mistake men make when talking to women is trying to be logical? Today we're going to dive into a totally different philosophy, one that says the real key to attraction has nothing to do with what you say, but everything to do with the energy you give off.
This right here, this question gets to the heart of a frustration so many guys feel. And according to the source material we're breaking down today, the answer is all based on one huge, fundamental misunderstanding of how attraction actually works.
And here it is, the core idea in a nutshell. Most of us, we get stuck in our heads, right? We're trying to figure out the perfect sequence of words, the perfect line. But the perspective we're looking at says that's the completely wrong game. Attraction, it argues, is an emotional current. It's an exchange of energy, not some kind of logical debate you can win.
Okay, so let's start with the absolute foundation. To really unlock any of this, we first have to redefine what we even mean by attraction, at least according to this way of thinking.
The key word here, the one you really got to focus on, is subconscious. The whole argument is that attraction isn't a choice she makes, like deciding what to have for lunch. Nope. It's presented as this automatic, deep-down emotional gut reaction that gets triggered, not by your words, but by the patterns in your behavior.
So if your behavior is the trigger, where do you even start? Well, the source says it all begins internally. Before you can even think about changing your actions, you have to completely reset your mindset. It's a simple idea, really. The outside world just reflects what's going on inside your head.
And this whole mindset, it really rests on three big pillars. First, you have to stop putting women on a pedestal. She's just a person. Second, and yeah, this one can be a little tricky, is to feel superior, but not with your ego. This isn't about being arrogant or a jerk. It's about radiating a calm, centered confidence that you're the prize. And why? Well, that leads to the third pillar, this belief that her subconscious is always scanning you, constantly trying to figure out your value.
And that brings us to this central metaphor, the subconscious radar. Just imagine it's this ancient primal mechanism that's totally separate from our logical brain. It's always on, it's always scanning, and according to this source, it's always asking one simple question. Is this guy a high-value partner or not?
This slide, this really gets to the core of the power dynamic being described here. The argument is that this subconscious radar is so incredibly powerful that it can completely steamroll her logical thinking. If her deep, primal instinct gives you a yes, her conscious brain often has no choice but to just get on board.
Okay, so if you can't talk to this radar with logic and words, how do you communicate with it? Well, it's not about what you say. It's all about those nonverbal signals. Let's dig into what the source calls the true language of competence.
All right, so I want you to just forget all the typical advice you've ever heard about body language. Stand up straight, puff your chest out. The source we're looking at calls most of that just noise, totally irrelevant. Instead, it boils everything down to just three really powerful rules. Here they are. Number one, don't lean in. It just signals way too much eagerness. Instead, you lean back. 2, never, ever chase. If she gives you a hard time or seems dismissive, the power move is to just smile and be willing to walk away. That flips the whole script. And number 3, probably the most important of all, just be comfortable.
That last rule, be comfortable, it sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But the source claims it's the most profound one of all. To really get it, let's just walk through a quick thought experiment together. First, I want you to imagine you're sitting across from someone super high status. A celebrity, a big shot CEO, you name it. How does your body feel? You're probably sitting up a bit straighter, you're more tense, you're controlling your movements. You're kind of nervous.
Okay, now, completely different scene. Imagine you're just chilling on the couch with your best friend or your brother. How are you sitting now? You're totally relaxed, probably slouched, completely at ease. You're not thinking about your posture for a second. You feel powerful and equal.
And that right there, that's the whole takeaway. That feeling of total relaxation you have with a close friend. The source argues that that feeling is your true power posture. It's the genuine ease, not some forced, perfect military posture that her subconscious radar is hardwired to pick up on.
Okay, so we've covered the internal game and the nonverbal stuff. Now, how does this all translate into the actual words coming out of your mouth? Well, the source lays out a very, very specific formula for this.
And the ratio it proposes is this. 50% of the conversation is about her, 30% is about random, fun, impersonal stuff, and only 20%, just 20%, is about you. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds totally backwards, right? But the idea is that by limiting how much you talk about yourself, you avoid falling into that trap of trying to impress her. So, what's the psychology behind this? It's simple, really. Think about a job interview. Who has all the power? It's the interviewer asking all the questions, right? Not the candidate who's talking all about themselves, trying to get approval. By talking less about yourself, you subtly flip that dynamic. You become the interviewer, you hold the power, and that makes her invest more in the conversation.
All right, now we're getting into the more advanced stuff. Once you've got that basic formula down, the next level is all about actively creating a sense of mystery. And let's be clear, this isn't about lying. It's about the art of being incomplete. Here's a perfect example. She asked that classic question, where do you work? Now, the standard, factual answer is logical, sure, but it completely kills the tension. The source suggests a more playful, mysterious reply that kind of dodges the question. See what that does? It creates curiosity, it keeps you in control, and it forces her to work just a little bit harder.
And it's the exact same principle here. What are you doing Saturday? The needy reply just gives away all your power instantly. But the mysterious reply, it creates intrigue. It signals that you have a full, exciting life that she isn't automatically a part of. At least, not yet. And that makes her want to pull back the curtain and see what's going on.
But hold on, there is one final hurdle. The source is pretty clear on this. After all this, a woman will subconsciously test you to see if all this confidence is actually real or if it's just some kind of act.
And here it is, the single most important rule for passing every single one of those tests. She might tease you or challenge you or say something just to poke at your ego. Most guys react. They get defensive, they get angry. The real power, the source says, is to simply not react at all. Just smile, like her words are nothing more than air.
This calm, cool, non-reaction is apparently the ultimate proof of confidence. It's how you pass that final test. But that leads us to the biggest question of all, doesn't it? How do you actually get to that internal state where you are so unshakably calm? Well, according to our source, that's a secret for another time.